series that I want to say humanly we stumbled on. 7 resolutions to change your life. Today I want to continue in Matthew chapter 4 and verse 17, where we find a series of powerful change words and phrases that we are calling power change words. The first word we raised on last Sunday was the word repent. Repent requires recognizing that something is not working and needs to change. It requires that there be a recognition that you are perhaps going in a direction and you need to change directions. That how you have approached some things and even some people needs to change. And we talked about last week that the reality that all change begins in the mind. And nothing, absolutely nothing changes until you change your mind. Tell somebody, I'm changing my mind. We talked about the reality that you could have been going in a different direction altogether and been working for you, but you just changed your mind. So we talked about the first resolution, change your mind. The next power change word that I want to call your attention to in Matthew chapter 4 and verse 17 is the word kingdom. Say kingdom. Kingdom. Kingdom is about government. It's about authority and power. It's about rules and ruling. It's about who rules and who gets to make the rules. Kingdom is about who calls the shots. Jesus announces in Matthew chapter 4, Jesus announces here, what he announces is a total shift in the balance of power. Jesus is talking about a complete transformation of the power structure. When Jesus announces that the kingdom of heaven is at hand, he is talking about a complete overthrow of the reigning authority. Those that were in power understood that the arrival of a new king and the arrival and the announcement of a new kingdom meant an entire change in the power structure. What Jesus is announcing here is a kingdom whose origin is heaven and where he is the reigning king. When Jesus calls upon them to follow him, he is not talking about a button you click on Facebook and Twitter. Right. Amen. Jesus announcing that a kingdom has come. He is announcing a new kingdom that replaces, that overthrows the reigning power structure. Matthew chapter 4 and verse 13. Look at verse 13. Jesus proclaims this kingdom that has come. He proclaims it in the land of Zebulun and Naphtali by the way of the sea beyond Jordan, Galilee of the Gentiles. Isaiah calls this land a place of darkness. In Isaiah's time, Zebulun and Naphtali and the way of the Jordan, which is called the Galilee of the Gentiles, were populated mostly by pagans as a result of Babylon laying waste to Jerusalem. And Naphtali and Zebulun were hit first and hit hardest. They left in its wake a land that was populated by pagans. There were more pagans than Jews. And even the Jews that remained in Naphtali and Zebulun had a difficult time holding on to their faith and holding on to their ancestral traditions. By the time Jesus comes to Naphtali and Zebulun, there are, in fact, more Jews than pagans, but it is called Galilee of the Gentiles because of the steep and the deep and the overriding influence of the pagans among the Jews. And you could hardly tell the difference between a Jew and a Gentile. You could hardly tell the difference between the devout, faithful, and the pagans who served other gods. The real Jews look down on them almost as much as they look down on the Samaritans because of the deep Gentile influence in Naphtali and Zebulun. It is there that Jesus comes to this place that's struggling and barely surviving the overthrow of their authority by another king of Babylon many years ago, who's barely surviving the contrast and the conflict of cultures between the Jews and the Gentiles in their own land. It is there that Jesus comes and announces to them, kingdom of heaven is at hand. Matthew chapter 4 and verse 16. Look quickly at verse number 16. The people that live there, Matthew says, they sat in darkness. The people who live here sit in the darkness. They live in and they live with the darkness. It's just their way.
All right.
It's how they do life. And everybody knows it. They live in and with the darkness. Your eyes adjust to the darkness after a while. There are rules. There are rules in Naphtali and Zebulun. Most of the rules are unspoken and unwritten. It's just their way. They live with it. It's the rule. There's certain things they do, there's certain things they don't do, there's certain ways they think, certain ways they don't think, and it's Naphtali, Zebulun, and they all follow the rules. A few, if any of them, know where the rules came from. They just have always been, and they always are. This is the way you live. There's certain things you do, certain occupations that you have, certain things you do in your family, certain cultures, certain things that you do, certain ways you grow up. There's only so far you go when you're born in Naphtali and Zebulun. You may go a little bit distance, but you always come back because that's just the rule. Everybody born in Naphtali and Zebulun, they live in the darkness because that's just the way it is. Nobody knows why. That's the way it's always been. Jesus comes and says, there's a new kingdom at hand. New rules. There are all kinds of rules in all kinds of places. Y'all still listening?
Yes, sir.
Societies have rules. Cultures have rules. Families and social circles have rules. Jobs and cliques and people with status and people without it. And they all have rules and things you do and things you don't do. It ain't written down nowhere. It's just rules. Certain ways you say, certain ways you dress, certain ways you don't, certain things you do, certain places you go, certain people you sit with, certain people you don't sit with. It's just kind of certain people you speak to, and other people you don't speak to. Nobody really knows why. It's just the rule, and cultures have rules. Families and circles have rules. Even Facebook and Twitter have rules. People put stuff out there, and you're supposed to do stuff with it and reply and send it on and do all. Everybody got rules, and if you don't know the rules, you'll get in trouble. I went to a church yet the other day and helped officiate a funeral, and I didn't know the rules, and so I was trying to save time, like the family told me, and so I cut out some stuff that this 100-year-old church was a rule. It wasn't in the Bible, but it was their rule. Rules ain't written, rules ain't spoken. It's just everybody that grows up with the rules know the rules. There are generational rules that just get passed down in a family. And the black sheep of the family is usually the one that don't follow the family rules. You know, when you're born in rules, you just learn to live with them. You learn to go along and get along, and then after a while, you start to manage your life around those rules without even thinking consciously about them. Even though you may not want to live by them anymore, the rules keep pulling you back and holding you back. Even though you want to do something different because you were raised with these rules, and these rules are in you. It's just, you understand, it's just a rule. And so here I am, turning 60 in this year. I think I'll turn 60. And here I am, and it could be 140 degrees outside, and I got to think hard about not putting on an undershirt, because I was raised that you didn't leave the house without rules. So even though you may not want to live by the rules seem to have a hold on you. Romans chapter 7, Paul describes it like this. Paul says, what I want to do, I can't do, because the rules in my head won't let me. And what I don't want to do, I keep doing, because the rules in my head make me do it. So when you look at this text, it is not just that they are sitting in the darkness, but that the darkness sits in them. All right. It sits on the thrones of their minds, enforcing the rules. Rules like people from Nephtali don't get out. That rules like life is for other people, not for us. All right. Rules like you can't win, and failure is inevitable. Rules like fear is a way of life, and you may as well get used to fear. Rules like freedom is not an option. Your mama failed, and your daddy failed, and your sister failed, and your auntie failed, and we all failed. And freedom and success is not an option. Rules like you too bad, you've been too bad for too long, and you can't change. All right. Rules like what is it? A leopard can't change his spot is a condemnation that you'll never change. Rules that everybody knows, because that's just the way it is. The Scarecrow and Michael Jackson's Wiz would say, you can't win, you can't break even, and you can't get out of the game. 2 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse number 5, Paul crafts it this way. Paul says that they are strongholds that over time and practice and feeding of the mind, they are strongholds that have been set up in the mind that resist the knowledge of Christ. And so when you want to know Christ and you want to do right and you want to do better, there are strongholds that are set up in the mind. It ain't how you are. It ain't who you are. The enemy tells you it's who you are, but it ain't who you are. It's a stronghold of rules set up in your mind, ways of thinking, patterns of thinking and behavior that you've learned over time, learned in crisis, passed down maybe from your mama, passed down maybe from your daddy. It ain't who you are. It's just the rules in your head. Paul said that they resist, they push back against the knowledge of Christ. In Matthew chapter 5 and Matthew chapter 6, Jesus shows that these rules, that Jesus shows us how these rules get in your head. You ever wonder why I think like this? Well, why I want to do something different, but I keep doing the same. Matthew chapter 5, don't go through it, because it's too much to read. Matthew chapter 5 and chapter 6, Jesus shows us how the rules get in our head. Y'all got time for me?
Yes, sir.
Jesus says that these rules get in our head through misinformation, misinterpretations, and bad influences.
All right.
So repeatedly in Matthew chapter 5, Jesus keeps saying, talking about misinformation. Jesus said, you heard it said, but I say it. You heard that somebody said, but I said. Jesus said that bad rules get in your head through misinformation.
Yes.
Jesus said that bad rules get in your head through misinterpretation. He shows how the scribes and the Pharisees would take what God said, and in order to have a loophole, they redefine and reinterpret what God said so they could get out of obedience. Jesus says that bad rules get in your head by misinterpretation, and bad rules get in your head by poor influences.
Yes.
Jesus would say over and over again in Matthew chapter 6, Jesus would say, don't be like the hypocrites. Don't be like the Pharisees. Matthew chapter 4, verse 16. Those that sat in the darkness, they sat in the darkness all their lives, then something happened. Something happened. Isaiah says that, Isaiah puts it like this in Matthew captures it. Isaiah says that they're sitting in the darkness all that time. They're sitting in the darkness, and then all of a sudden, Isaiah says, light sprung up. Light sprung up. We were watching video this morning in the Sunday school class, and we were watching the video, and Dr. Anderson had turned off the light so that we could see the screen. And when the video was over, she's highly efficient, y'all. And so when the video was over, she said, boom, 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 and the lights came on, and her eyes said, ah. Because she didn't give me a chance. She didn't give me no warning. She just did on. And so that's what Isaiah said. Isaiah says that they're sitting in the darkness. They're walking in the darkness all their lives. And then something happened. Isaiah says, light sprung up. Boom. Matthew says it wasn't light that sprung up. Matthew says that it was Jesus that showed up. He is walking by the way of the sea. He's walking by the way of the sea, and he announces to them, as he did on last Sunday, he announces to them that you can change your mind. You can change your mind. And then he says, repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. And so this morning, I want to talk to you about our second resolution. I want to talk to you about change the rules. Change the rules. Changing your mind is only the beginning. you want lasting change, you need to change the rules. You need to depose the lies, the misinformation, the misinterpretations, and the coded messages deposited in your head by bad influences.
Yes.
All the lies that keep you in the dark must be pulled off the throne.
Yes.
Kingdom is about changing the rules.
All right.
It is about dethroning the rulers in your head. It is about evicting the false authorities that have established strongholds in your mind.
All right now.
See, changing your mind. How many times have you changed your mind? How many resolutions have you made and not kept? Changing your mind is the decision to change.
Yes.
Listen, changing your mind is the decision to change. Changing the rules is the process and execution for the change you want.
All right now.
I can make a decision to change, but if I don't change the rules, I will be frustrated because I want something, I've decided that I want it, but I can't seem to get it. And so I decide in my mind every day that I want to be different. I decide in my mind every day that I want to change. I decide in my mind that I want to live different. I want something different in my life, but I can't seem to get it. No matter how many times I say I want it, and no matter how much I pray, I can't seem to maintain the change. It's because you got to change more than your mind. You got to change the rules. Changing your mind is a decision to change. Changing the rules is the process for change. Tell somebody I'm changing the rules.
Changing the rules.
Tell them I'm changing the rules.
Changing the rules.
Y'all don't believe it yet. No matter how much you say you want to change,
Yes.
until you change the rules, you'll stay in the dark.
Yes.
Ruled by misinformation, misinterpretation, and bad messages in your head. If you want lasting change, you have to change the rules.
Yes.
Somebody puts it this way. Break the rules before the rules break you.
All right now.
Change the rules. Rules are made. Can I help somebody here?
Please.
I don't know who I'm talking to.
All right now.
Rules are made to keep the ruler ruling. If you don't want to be ruled, change the rules. There's a reason. There's a reason that unwritten rules aren't written. Change the rules. Say, change the rules.
Change
the rules. See, rules, are you listening to me?
Yes, sir.
See, rules frame the culture. And the culture creates new rules to maintain itself.
All right. All right. All right.
If you want a different culture, you have to change the rules. You want a different culture in your home, you want a different culture in church, you want a different culture in your relationship, then you have to change
All right.
the rules.
All right.
Okay. Are y'all listening?
Yes,
Every significant accomplishment, every groundbreaking discovery, every invention, every medical breakthrough happened because somebody dared to challenge the rules. Somebody dared to say and question the rules that had been stated. Every great movement, every revolution that has reshaped the world happened because somebody dared to change the rules. The civil rights movement was about changing the rules. There were written rules and unspoken rules and spoken rules and signs that said colored only and Negroes to the back of the bus. But civil rights was about somebody's about one woman and a whole lot of other folk who decided one day that I'm not going to obey the back of the bus rule.
All right now.
It's about changing the rule, and it is to this day, ever since I read that story many years ago, it is to this day that I refuse, I will stand on the front before I sit in the back. Somebody died, somebody sacrificed so that the rules could be changed. Thousands of Negroes walked every day until the rules changed. Thousands of Negroes endured water hoses and dogs so we could go to school to change the rules. Flight happened because somebody decided to see beyond the known rules and adapt to a higher rule. And now we jump on a plane like it ain't nothing. I want to, in the time I remain, talk to you about how to change. 3 habits to change the rules inside your head. Now, I got to tell you, I don't have no quick fixes. No easy formulas for instant change.
All right now.
Because revolution is never instant. Revolution is never easy. Right? But if you want to change the rules in your head that keep you in the dark and keep the dark in you, then here you go. How do I begin to change the rules? How do I begin to depose and dethrone the rules and the authority and the strongholds and the messages in my head and the images in my head that keep fighting against me and telling me that I can't, and telling me who I'm not, and telling me I'm going to fail? How do I begin to change these rules in my head? And I don't have time to take you through Matthew 4, 5, and 6, and 7, but let me just kind of encapsulate these for you. Here are three habits that you need to develop really and commit to this year if you really want to change the rules in your head. Now you can stay the same.
All right.
You can stay the same and do nothing. You can do nothing and stay right where you are and keep hoping and wishing that one day God is going to overpower you and just boom, make a change in your life. If you can do that, you can sit there and wait and you know. But is that really what you want? Here, number one. Here's verse 10. You must establish daily intake of the word.
Yes.
I heard you just said it. Oh, there we go. I remember the lady told me, you're in biblical counseling, you get issues. I remember the lady told me, I sat down with her life was a wreck, her marriage was falling apart. She was broke, everything was going haywire in her life, her kids were a mess, her husband was a mess, didn't know how to come home and didn't know how to keep his pants up, all stuff kind of going on in her life. And she sat down with me, and she wanted some biblical counseling, and I took out the Bible, and she said, there you go with that Bible stuff. Don't you have nothing else but the Bible? I said, no, I don't have nothing else but the Bible. And neither should you. And the fact that you do is why you're here sitting across from me. If you want to change your life, you must establish daily intake of the Word of God. Read the Word to hear God speak. Read the Word to hear God speak. I gotta keep moving. Memorize the Word for retention and ready recall. Read it and memorize it. You have to. Are you getting this? Memorize it for retention and ready recall. Memorize not just random verses. Memorize rhema word. Memorize word that speaks to you in the struggle that you're in, because you want to be able to recall that word when you're under the stress of the different voices in your head. If you will listen close to those bad messages and information in your head, if you listen real close, you'll hear that the messages sound like somebody you know.
All right, my God.
Listen to the voice closely of the message you're hearing, and I bet you it sounds like your mama, or sound like your daddy, or sound like some bad influence in your life that gave you bad information. That told you you'd never be anything, told you you'd never amount to anything, told you you would always be a failure. And listen real close, and you'll still hear the sound of their voice. You have to read the Word, memorize the Word, and listen, you have to recite the Word out loud so you can retune your ear and your soul to the sound of God's voice. When you hear the word out loud, you are hearing God's voice. You must read it out loud so you can retune your ear, retune your soul so that you can hear and recognize His voice. Jesus said, my sheep know my voice. How do they know my voice? Because they practice hearing the sound of it. We hear the sound of His voice as we read His word and read it out loud. We get used to the sound. And so what happens is when we're in the middle of a crisis, when we're in the middle of a struggle, when we're in the middle of a battle, instead of the voice of your mama and the voice of your daddy and your cousin and your schoolmate coming up telling you who you're not, you'll hear the sound of a different voice. I said the prophet says that keep moving. You'll hear in the back of your ear, on the side of your head, in your ear, you'll hear the sound of a voice saying, this is the way, walk in it. But you can't do that if you don't have nothing to work with. Read it out loud so you get used to the sound. Hearing plus speaking it will aid in your change. First Peter chapter 2, verse 2 says that we got to desire the sincere milk of the word, the pure, uncut word, as babes desire milk from their mamas. You got to desire. You got to desire. They had, oh Lord Jesus, I don't know. Y'all got some time for me. I read an article, I saw a story the other day that now they figured out, I don't know what to think about it, but they figured out how mothers across the country can freeze their breast milk and then sell it to some other woman who's stuck. And I said, that sounds real good, but I don't know, because I think the baby is looking for more than just the milk. I think the baby is looking for more than just the milk, because you can just put the milk in a bottle, but I think the baby wants more than the milk. I don't know, Doc, if I think the baby is looking for more than the milk. I think that the baby, when it takes in the milk from the mama, is taking more than the milk. It's taking in her love. It's taking in her care. It's taking in connection. It's taking in provision and protection. It's taking in who she is into itself. And so the baby ain't just looking for the milk. The baby is looking for the source of the milk. And so Peter says, desire the sincere milk of the word. Hebrews chapter 4, verse 12 says that the word of God is living and active and full of power, making it operative and energizing and effective. It is sharper than any two-edged sword, penetrating as far as the division of the soul and spirit, the completeness of the person and of the joints and marrow, the deepest parts of our nature, exposing and judging the very thoughts and intents of the heart. So when I read the word of God, that the word of God itself, I don't necessarily need a prophet, I don't necessarily need TD or anybody else on the TV, but when I read the word of God, and I read the word of God because I'm looking for the milk of the word, but I'm looking for what's behind the milk of the word. I'm looking to hear God's voice, not just to read the words, not just to read the words on the page, because these are the same words that can come from the newspaper. These are the same words that can come from psychology. It's just a whole different order of the words. It ain't the black and white print. What did he say? That the word is more than just the printed page and the letter. The word is spirit. And so I must have regular intake of the word of God. Yeah. Read it, memorize it, recite it. Number two, I've got to have discipline. If you want to change the rules in your head, are you still here with me? Yes, sir. Then you must have not only daily intake, you need disciplined application. Disciplined application of the word. The Pharisees knew the words. It wasn't that they didn't know the words. So how could they keep reading the words and arrive at different interpretations? That's good. It was because their approach to the words, listen, their approach to the words was to look for loopholes in the words. See, any interpretation. That's why Timothy says that there are no private interpretations. The word doesn't have private interpretation. That means you don't get to make it say what you want it to say. All right. So the Pharisees would take the words and interpret them and add their own. They would say, here's what God said, here's what it means. And what they said it mean was not what God meant, it's what they wanted. All right. Thank you. Any approach to the word of God that is not looking to apply it and obey it is foolish. All right. The Lord said to Joshua, you shall not let this word depart out of your mouth. And he said, listen, you shall observe it to preach it. You shall observe it to quote it. You shall observe it to produce videos. You shall observe it to monetize it into books. No, he said, you shall observe it to do it. If in my reading, if in my study, my approach is not for application of it to my life, then I've missed the point. Any interpretation that seeks a way around obedience is a wrong interpretation. Listen, can I? Oh, Jesus. I got to hear it. My time is going on. Listen, There must be intentionality as I approach the Word of God to apply what I hear and what I read. It's not some magic something, some magic incantation that I put some kind of magic rabbit's foot. You know, the Word of God is like a rabbit's foot. And so what we do, we approach it in the morning, right? We get up in don't say this. So you get up in the morning and you say, I gotta do my devotion. And so I go find the little books, the little daily breads, and I read a little verse, a couple minutes, I read that, and I think, boy, I got my rabbit foot in my pocket for the day. I'm good. But that's not what it's for. It's not a rabbit's foot. It's not a good luck charm. It is intended to produce in us change. It is intended to make us disciples and to conform us into the image of Christ. And I must have disciplined application. That means what I read, I must look to see what is it that I'm supposed to do with it. How does it apply to my life? How do I begin to reorder my life based on the word that I heard? Otherwise, I just keep hearing the word and reading the word, and I never see change in my life. James says, wherefore lay apart all filthiness and superfluity of naughtiness, and receive with meekness the engrafted word which is able to save your souls. Not which is able to save you for heaven. It's talking about the soul, which is able to save your soul, your mind and your emotions. It's able to save it and redeem it from the corruptness that you were born in and transform it into what Christ intended. So he says, so be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving your own self. For if any be a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like unto a man beholding his natural face in a glass. He looks at himself and then goes his way and forgets what he looks like. He looks in the mirror, he sees he's jacked up, and as soon as he walks away from the mirror, he forgets he's jacked up. So James says, don't be a forgetful hearer, but be a doer of the word. The last thing, and I'm done. We need daily intake, discipline, application, and finally, you need discipling connections. Discipling connections. This is about discipleship, discipling connections. You need to connect with people who will help you become a better disciple. Yes. Do you hear me? Yeah. You need to connect with people who will admonish you in the Lord, not pacify you in your feelings and your wrong. You don't need to surround yourself with people who keep telling you what you want to hear and make you feel good about being in your dirt. Hello? Yes. I know we don't like it because we like to be around people that make us feel good, and we want to feel good about having been around them. I don't need a doctor to make me feel good about the fact that I'm sick. I need a doctor who will help me get well. Fix my problem. I don't care when I go to the doctor. Call me fat. I know I'm fat. The doctor pats on my stomach. I ain't offended. Keep telling me that I'm wrong. Keep telling me what I need to fix. I don't need you to tell me, oh, that's okay. It's a whole lot of people fat. Yeah, but I don't want to go to heaven with them right now. Surround yourself with people who will tell you the truth. Not just what you want to hear. You need connections with people who are pursuing godliness, people who are pursuing following Christ. You don't need to surround yourself with a bunch of people who are trying to make the same excuses you're trying to make. All right now. You need people in your life who will provoke you to grow, who will provoke you to a deeper walk, and provoke you to holiness. Yes. You need people in your life that can provoke you, and you need people in your life that you provoke. Yes. The people around you ought to be different because you've been around them. They ought not feel more justified in their lack of growth because you made them feel good. Tell them the truth. You understand me? I am going to sue. I'm going to find the best attorney I can. I'm going to find the whole boatload of attorneys. I'm going to sue my doctor if I find out that he didn't tell me I was sick because he didn't want to hurt my feelings. I'm going to sue him. I come because I want you to tell me what's wrong. And I don't want to have to tell you what's wrong so you can tell me. You the doctor, figure it out. Examine me. Probe me. I don't like it, but shove that truth where you want to shove that truth. Find out what's wrong with me. I'm trying to go to heaven, but not right now. You need people in your life. You need people who will hold you accountable. Can I tell you something? Accountable people hold people accountable. You can't hold nobody accountable if you're not. And don't ask nobody to hold you accountable who ain't accountable, because they ain't going to do it. Because they want you to give them a pass when their time comes up. I don't want a pass. You need more connections with people who are trying to grow, trying to become a disciple. Thessalonians chapter 5, 11, 14, Paul says, comfort one another, edify one another, receive instruction and admonishment. Receive instruction and admonishment. This is where we stumble. This is where we really stumble. We can get real deep. We can sing loud, pray loud, and everything else. We can do all that, but we can't receive instructions, because as soon as the pastor or anybody else in leadership tell you no or give you instructions, you don't want to follow their instructions. There's something wrong with the Jesus you got. You need more. You need more people in your life will tell you, girl, you jacked. He said, warn the unruly. When the last time you warned the unruly? Don't worry about it. We're gonna get to a message. In a couple of weeks, I'm gonna preach a message. Change your church. We're gonna get to it. Just hang on. He said, warn the unruly, comfort the feeble-minded, support the weak, and be patient towards all. The kingdom is here, Jesus says. Listen, the kingdom is here. Amen. You can do nothing and stay the same. Really? We make those choices every day, don't we? We can do nothing and stay the same. I'm inspired to do something. I hope it lasts. But I got to change some rules in order for it to last. Because I'm hoisting up a pair of pants that I tried to squeeze myself into a few weeks ago. But it means that that's a change in the rules that I govern my life by. Yes. It means I can't have the donut. Amen. It means let me change the rules. It means I can't get up and I can't go to Krispy Kremes and eat 12 packages. All right now. You can do nothing and stay exactly where you are. It is really your choice. Yes. You can choose to change or you can choose not to change. But is that what you want? If that's what you want, if that is the choice that you make to stay the same, then do not complain about all that comes with your choices. All right. Because you cannot have the benefits of change while choosing to stay the same. You can change the rules and experience the life God intended for us. If you want to change, you must change the rules. I need to take some more of your time. It's in a moment I'm going to ask you to do something. I need to take some more of your time.
All right now.
I found this song, and I'm going to read you the words. I want you to hear it. I need some more of your time. Can I have some more of your time?
Yeah.
It's about a young lady named Lauren Daigle, I think. She says, listen, I keep fighting voices in my head that say I'm not enough. Every single lie that tells me I will never measure up. Am I more than just the sum of every high and every low? Remind me once again just who I am, because I need to know. The only thing that matters now is everything you think of me. You, I find my worth. You, I find my identity. So I'm taking all I have, and now I'm laying it at your feet. Every failure, God, every victory, you have every victory. You say I am loved, but I can't feel a thing. You say I am strong, but I think I am weak. You say I am held, when I am falling short. When I don't belong, you say I am yours. And I believe. I believe what you say of me. I believe. I want you to do something right now. I want you to stand up. Give me just a little bit more of your time. Just a little bit more of your time. I want you to find a partner. Don't run out. Just find a partner. That means one. Where you real deep Baptist people don't form a circle. There's one. I just said don't form a circle. See how that boy changed your room there? Child of leaving. Thank you. Listen. Everybody there? Look him in the eyes. Here's what I'm going to ask you. Listen, there are lies in your head.